Well, you know, I could run a pretty good kitchen up on the 8th floor, and they know it and they hate me for it. Yeah. Maybe it's my great-grandmother in me, you know? But a lot of us know the displaced homemaker, has no place to go. But we can't tolerate any abuse, any distortion, just like the man back from a journey. PTSD, I don't want to run into any kind of similar situation of the war I just came out of. And then I hear, you know, why isn't the arrival and the return enough? Stop crossing dirty lines for the job. Yeah, back to Mr. Kennedy. The naked IDs. Come on. It got really, really disgusting. Because we're seeing it go up the chain. They still don't want the Epstein information out. Why? Because it's going to leave a lot of open seats. And they can't take their retirement packages with them because that's the bad behavior that they're going to get sanctioned on. And it is silly to see that, and I'm not exactly sure. Maybe it made sense, but I did say, Jasmine's doing her job. She's doing what's required. She did it with me, she's doing it for others, and that's why that paperwork hit the door. So, no, I'm not getting jacked up about that. Because I've always thought this. How could she come in so quickly and be that attitudinally disrupted? And yeah, you keep hearing you're in the right place, you're right where you belong, you're here for the task, right? Maybe. Well, under whose guidance and navigation? When they kind of leave you with the leftovers of the last administration's problems. That's what we're going to see conjunctively through the city. And it's going to boil down to some marriages. Because that's how small town happens. No one can afford a housewife like that. The housewife does have to assume, and we were accustomed to that. If you lose the provider, Social Security kicks in with that. And then you come up on your own. That was the security of that, because you would see your usefulness once you were no longer encumbered by the children, and you could maintain your household. Bigger houses are not better unless you really do need to be a servant to the community's properties. Then you have maintenance crews. That's the way I see things. And with our aged population, I very much, dive into the, who's in a nursing home when. It doesn't matter. You're not going to feel like you're stuck in a building. We're going to meet you at your visual need. Any of us that exist together. Because we're not nurses. We're homemakers. We just know how to nurse and respond because it was in our training here. Yeah, very important it was. I'm seeing Forest Street School outside of the brick building on the sidewalk. Arbor days, track and field, when there was no track or field. We were in the road, doing the relays. You make the best of where you are. But at some point you get stuck and you become a product of someone else's determination in an environment that they know they are capable to manipulate in dark circumstances. Those that say, well, I can do this favor because I believe you, but nothing's getting done like that anymore. And that's why we have this, continued surveillance. And I do believe everything was seen. Felt that way. Intrusive, invasive, repetitive. In the mind's eye. And that tells you it's just another point where the frequency hits and stops and reads. Were we not doing that? Outer space, is anybody there? Right? Gets stranger by the minute, doesn't it? Not really. You exist under your own compass. Extreme biblical response and circumstance, we are all against it. We are all against going somewhere else and hiding. That's why we believe in extradition. No matter where you go, there you are, and you're probably going to perpetrate it again if you are running, if you are hiding, if you're under an IP address, a virtual private network and bouncing off continents. That in itself is an indicator. And we keep hearing the internet just profoundly made things more obvious. But those are the same ones in the provider service. And YouTube has been in that conundrum under different government guidance. And why, I'll ask this now, on the predictive keyboard, limits. Anything that you type that comes close to limits, does the name Kim come after it? That would be a leader, not an individual. Perhaps. Information never helped anyone, is what my mother would say, standing at the sink, looking out the window. Either you're doing what you do, doing what you're supposed to, or you're hovering over, coveting conversation, making what you believe is fair use to partial conversation that you've never been involved in or invited to because of your own proclivities. Now, that was your need to satisfy your governance, your unwillingness to waver thought and say, I'll give way for some change to see what comes of it. Population control that we've seen over the years, how did they really come to believe that women were not needed. Because here we are, 2025, and, you know, everybody tried to be the next first and new upcoming woman, and yet, what was the point? I'm so confused about that. If you had to change your vessel to think that you were going to be arriving as, well, what about the full, you know, genetic woman that does and gives birth and still is not recognized as a woman with purpose? And we've been told, you know, you should be home taking care of the family, not worrying about traveling shoes and what you're wearing, but to satisfy, cook, comfort, and be a reliance. And that's why my mother, you know, assumedly said, well, girl, you know, if your household fails, it was on you. The budget was on you. You failed. Well, no, not exactly. Not exactly. This, it tells me it's artificial. It's artificial. It's the freaking knock 3 times, blah, blah, blah. Why did Ray say, well, all I have to do is tell them to go away, and they go away? Stop. Come on. The seagull. Because let's get back to that. He's not the first person I met with a full jacket, but he claimed it was clean. Okay? And then we got the Blair Witch thing going over. Screaming, and I was reactive. Yeah. This stuff up overhead, sleep deprivation. I believe that was the task performance, and it's still on it, however it does it. To see those two at the curb, powder puff. How, Nancy, how do you breathe? You're wearing the mask all the time. If you have a lung issue, I think Tara's protective, but that's neither here nor there. The powder puff effect. That's going to be more disruptive than anything. It lingers in the elevator. And respiratory wise, is it tiring? Vinegar. I use vinegar to clean. My bath soap, my kitchen soap, shampoo. Those are my soaps. Lemon water, salt water. None of the Febreze stuff, none of that. I told Mary Maloney she needed a vaporizer. Yeah. And after that, she stopped having the reoccurring bronchial infections. She did. It's the DO. Yeah. The osteopathy effect. You go back to basic minimum. Boiling water, all of that. I've done all of that. When I feel like a baby, I treat myself like a baby. I boil the water. I snack every couple of hours. And I do believe that's the mono and chronic fatigue. And you just keep a schedule and function in it as if there's a baby in the house. You get up and do it. That's what I've learned here. That is what I've heard generationally through my aloneness. There was lots of channeling in the kitchen. The food. Others are going to say stuff about that, and I don't want to expand on it. Because they're pot. Nosy Neighbor Network. That's all it is. It's not a divine knowing. No, it's not. Don't play into it ever. I don't know how these readers come on and, can, unless they're talking to someone specifically, which feels like a manipulation to the rest of all of us. Yes, it does. Yeah. Are you getting the visual? Yeah. How can you say that? How could they say the next person that was going to walk through my door was going to intentionally harm me? That is what I was hearing. Because way back at A Touch of Tarot, yeah. Oh, she sounded so snarky and attitudinally like Amy and Mary. Why did I say Amy first when maybe that's a tell. Because if I didn't know better, it was almost like someone was sitting over in the window at the VFW up there. Honest to goodness. But, that's just me, trying to piece together reality and say, well, what are the possibilities that this so correlates to what I'm seeing? And then Salvadora, trying to keep up. Oh, all the soup I was making, bone broth. Yeah, yep. And he was keeping up with the color schemes because I was cleaning and moving furniture every day. But guess what? It wasn't artificially generated. No. I actually have that kind of energy when I feel good. Right now, I would like to. I'll be honest, I would like to move the desk, dust everything, but there's so much disturbance about how much noise I am making. It's literally banked in my head. If I touch that and if I do this, how much noise is it gonna make? Yeah, oven's preheated. I can smell it from here. About to make pizza. That's been my life. And these other distortions that I'm watching on the tablet, see? Yeah, how did I get here? Now, if that isn't the algorithm, I need to go make my pizza. Thanks.